Karen's sneer could curdle milk from a mile away. She stood on the cracked sidewalk of Oakwood Lane, waving a stimulus check like it was her birthright, her voice booming over the quiet neighborhood like a foghorn at a funeral. "You didn't mow your lawn to HOA standards, Maria," Karen barked, her chins wobbling as she jabbed a manicured finger at the single mother trembling before her. Maria, a nurse who hadn't slept a full night in weeks, clutched her daughter's hand, her eyes burning with exhaustion and fury. The check $1, $200 meant for rent and groceries was now a weapon in Karen's meaty grip. "Violation fee. I cashed it. Be grateful I didn't fine you more." The audacity was breathtaking. Maria's neighbors, gathered in a loose semicircle, gasped. Old Mr. Thompson, who'd lived on Oakwood since the Nixon era, clutched a crumpled HOA notice, his arthritis-ridden hands shaking. "You can't do that, Karen," he rasped. "That's federal money." Karen, president of the Oakwood Homeowners Association, had ruled the cul-de-sac with an iron fist for years. Her reign was a parade of petty fines: $50 for a mailbox with chipped paint, $100 for a car parked an inch over the line. But this? Stealing stimulus checks under the guise of violation fees. It was a new low, even for her. Maria's voice cracked as she stepped closer, her scrubs still stained from a 12-hour shift. "That was for my daughter's medicine, Karen. How dare you?" The air thickened with tension, the kind that hums before a storm breaks. Karen's lips curled into a smirk, her eyes glinting with the smugness of someone who believed she was untouchable. "File a complaint, sweetie," she taunted. "See how far that gets you." Oakwood Lane was a modest neighborhood, a patchwork of tidy bungalows and faded dreams. Families like Maria's scraped by, while retirees like Mr. Thompson stretched their pensions to the breaking point. The stimulus checks, issued during the economic fallout of 2024, were a lifeline. Karen knew this. She'd seen Maria's overdue bills piling up, heard Mr. Thompson's cough worsen without proper medication. Yet, she'd targeted them anyway, skimming their checks with a forged signature and a fabricated HOA violation excuse. The scam was simple but brazen. Karen, with her access to the HOA's mailbox and a knack for intimidation, intercepted the checks. She'd cashed them at a shady check-cashing joint downtown, claiming the funds as penalties for minor infractions. Maria's unkempt lawn, Mr. Thompson's slightly crooked fence post any excuse worked. She'd pocketed thousands, flaunting her new designer purse and gaudy gold earrings while her neighbors starved. But Karen hadn't counted on Maria's tenacity. The nurse, worn thin by life but forged in fire, wasn't about to let this slide. She'd spent her one day off digging through HOA records, finding inconsistencies in Karen's fines. She'd called the bank, then the post office, then the Treasury Department. Each call chipped away at Karen's carefully built facade. By the time Maria confronted her on that fateful evening, she'd already tipped off the authorities. "You think you're clever?" Maria said, her voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. "I've got proof, Karen. Bank records. Your signature on my check." The crowd murmured, sensing the shift. Karen's smirk faltered, just for a second, before she doubled down. "Proof? You're delusional," she scoffed, tossing her hair. "This is my neighborhood. I make the rules." Mr. Thompson, frail but defiant, stepped forward. "Not anymore," he said, holding up a phone. The screen glowed with an email from the Treasury Department, confirming an investigation into check fraud. Karen's eyes widened, her bravado cracking like cheap porcelain. "You're bluffing," she snapped, but her voice wavered. The distant wail of sirens cut through the dusk. Karen froze, her gaze darting to the end of the street where a police cruiser rounded the corner. The officer stepped out, a no-nonsense woman with a badge that gleamed under the streetlights. "Karen Whitaker," she called, her tone clipped. "We need to talk." The neighbors watched, stunned, as Karen's empire crumbled. She stammered, her usual bluster reduced to pathetic sputters. "This is a misunderstanding. I'm the victim here." But the officer wasn't buying it. She held up a warrant, her voice steady. "Cashing federal stimulus checks without authorization is a felony, ma'am. You're under arrest for check fraud." Maria's daughter, barely 8, clung to her mother's leg, whispering, "Is she going to jail?" Maria knelt, brushing a tear from her daughter's cheek. "She's going to face what she did," she said softly. The crowd parted as the officer cuffed Karen, her designer purse slipping to the ground with a dull thud. The neighbors didn't cheer, they were too tired for that, but a quiet relief settled over them, like the first breath after a long suffocation. Karen's trial was swift and brutal. The prosecution laid out a damning case: forged signatures, doctored HOA records, and a paper trail leading straight to her bank account. Maria testified, her voice steady as she recounted the desperation of losing her check. Mr. Thompson, too frail to attend, sent a written statement, his words heavy with the pain of betrayal. The jury took less than an hour to convict. Karen faced 7 years in federal prison, her HOA presidency revoked, her reputation shattered. But the story didn't end with Karen's handcuffs. The neighborhood rallied. Maria organized a fundraiser to replace the stolen funds, and donations poured in not just from Oakwood, but from across the city, where Karen's story had gone viral on X. People shared their own Karen encounters, tales of petty tyrants brought low by their own greed. The hashtag HOA Karen trended for weeks, a symbol of justice served. Maria used the funds to pay for her daughter's medication and catch up on rent. Mr. Thompson got a new fence, built by volunteers who'd had enough of HOA nonsense. Oakwood Lane began to heal, its residents rediscovering the strength of community. They elected a new HOA president, a quiet mechanic named Luis who believed rules should serve people, not punish them. Karen, meanwhile, sat in a cell, her designer purse replaced by a standard-issue jumpsuit. She'd lost everything: her power, her pride, her freedom. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman who'd sneered at violations had committed the ultimate one. She'd underestimated her neighbors, mistaking their silence for weakness. In the end, it was their voices united, relentless, that brought her down. The sun set on Oakwood Lane, casting a warm glow over the bungalows. Maria tucked her daughter into bed, reading her a story about courage. Mr. Thompson sipped tea on his porch, his cough quieter now. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was theirs again. And that was enough. The end.